I have a wife and 7 children, and I have education-wise, I have a bachelor's degree in business from State University of New York at Albany. Graduated from Free Gospel Bible Institute in Pennsylvania. Also graduated from a language school in South Texas, and my wife and I did a little missionary work in Mexico and in Guatemala for about 3 years. I have been involved in various industries. I was extensively in the meat and poultry industry and supervision and management. I've also been in the mining industry. Most recently, I'm involved with real estate and also have a small lawn care business. One main goal would like to see the breach, like to see the gap or chasm breached between the teachers and others in the state, whether it be leaders in the government or sometimes other citizens. And I think that breach that gap can be breached. That's probably the biggest challenge, and perhaps we'll dig into that more a little bit later. Would also like to see freedom on the Second Amendment go forward. We came very close to constitutional carry, which would allow any lawful citizen who's not a felon to carry a weapon if they so choose. And would like to push that forward again. I think we'll probably have another governor that hopefully will be more amenable to that. And I would like to work in the pro-life cause. I believe abortion is the taking of an innocent human life, and I think we need to move away from that. I want to make a difference for the people of Oklahoma, to stand for the constituents in this district, for their interests, for their values, and starting with right principles. The 3 pillars of my campaign are biblical principles, conservative values, and constitutional law. There are so many questions that come up and issues that come up. Many of them are complex, but if you start from the right principles, you can usually come up with the right solution. And I'd like to work for the people of District 2 with that in mind. Once again, bringing these differences together between the teachers and the others. And part of that, they had a legitimate claim that they were underpaid. And I think the latest bill addresses that very strongly, $6,000 average raise, as well as, and that bringing them up to about number 12 in the nation once you factor in cost of living. So would like to see that taken care of. Additionally, want to look at any efficiencies we can work on, economic efficiencies in our government in the state, because we have various needs, and they're genuine needs, and they're important needs. The easiest thing to do is just sign on the dotted line and say, let's raise taxes. But when we automatically go to raising taxes, we do not serve our constituents in the very best way. We've got to look carefully. Are there inefficiencies? Is there waste? Sometimes there is. And if we can fix that, we can get the funding where it needs to go, hopefully without raising taxes. Once again, bringing these differences together between the teachers and the others. And part of that, they had a legitimate claim that they were underpaid. And I think the latest bill addresses that very strongly, $6,000 average raise, as well as, and that bringing them up to about number 12 in the nation once you factor in cost of living. So would like to see that taken care of. Additionally, want to look at any efficiencies we can work on, economic efficiencies in our government in the state, because we have various needs, and they're genuine needs, and they're important needs. The easiest thing to do is just sign on the dotted line and say, let's raise taxes. But when we automatically go to raising taxes, we do not serve our constituents in the very best way. We've got to look carefully. Are there inefficiencies? Is there waste? Sometimes there is. And if we can fix that, we can get the funding where it needs to go, hopefully without raising taxes. The people and the values are the strongest thing about this district, and that's what I would like to go to work to protect the good things that are there and push them forward and make sure they're not torn down and opposed. Yeah. Education is a big one, and we've addressed that before. I think we're moving in the right direction. Of course, the reality is that the citizens may have an opportunity to overturn that. If they choose to overturn it, I think we have to honor the will of the citizens, but maybe they won't. So that's a big issue in the district. Infrastructure certainly needs improved. Well, economic concerns are uppermost in many people's minds, and rightly so. They're very important. And the big question comes, all of these needs that can be raised, which we've discussed and many others we've not specifically named, they're real financial needs. How do we address that? Do we raise taxes on the citizens? Do we raise taxes on the oil companies? Do we do something else? And the oil companies, just for the record, that bill that has just been passed, it actually doubled the taxes on the oil companies from about 2.5% to just over 5%. So we may have done too much there. We've certainly done enough on the oil companies. There's an excellent opportunity in the windmill tax credit. Now that started a number of years ago, and I understand why it did. You're looking at a new business that looked like it had a lot of potential. I understand the wisdom of giving them a chance with tax credits. But that can't last forever. A business has to prove that it's viable, that it's going to work. And right now, windmills are not economically viable. Now, they've got lots of lobbyists in the state capitol, and so they're keeping those tax credits. But perhaps we can divert some of that money to some of the other needs for infrastructure, for education, for salaries of support staff. It seems like we've addressed the immediate concern of teacher salaries, but there's also support staff. So perhaps some of the money that frees up can be sent to those directions. What's been stated about the local people here in this district is also true in the state of Oklahoma. I find, having been different places, there's an excellent work ethic here in Oklahoma. It is remarked as part of the Bible Belt. I think that's a good thing. So there's good values, there's good convictions here among so many of the people. And those are the biggest strengths, the values, the convictions, the people themselves. One of the biggest challenges is just how cyclical the revenue is. We're so heavily dependent on oil. It goes up, and it might go way up, and then it goes way down depending on what the oil industry is. So we have to broaden that base of revenue in a way that does not cast an undue burden on the taxpayers. And so that's a huge challenge, must be done carefully and with wisdom. And as we look at those needs are real. And yet we also have to consider the taxpayers. We can't just shove them aside and say, you take this, you do this, you do this. We must consider the taxpayers, and we also have to consider that the viability of our state for corporations and large businesses to move into. Naturally, they're going to compare us with other states. If our taxes are higher, they're probably going to look more favorably somewhere else. So as we consider our revenue, what we'd like to see done, we've also got to consider that we've got to be attractive to businesses because people need those jobs that those companies can bring. The state government workers, what's true for the teachers is true for them as well. The laborer is worthy of his hire. And really we need to take a careful look at where do our state government workers fit in the context of the surrounding states. Are they paid lower? If they're paid significantly lower, then that's something we need to address. And then, we need to look carefully at funding Again, a tax increase isn't always wrong, but it should really be a last resort. And I feel like between things like windmill tax credits as well as waste that has begun to be identified, there's more than enough money to address those things with excessive tax credits and excessive waste. I think we can address those things and therefore provide money for the state workers to be paid properly. Of course, I have the degree in business, so I understand economics. I understand numbers. I understand how those things work. That's a great strength. Also, my core values and convictions that are based on right and wrong, ultimately based on the Bible. If we don't start with a good foundation, the whole building crumbles. So those strong core values and convictions, business training and experience in several industries, and also experience not only in large corporations but in small business as well. So I understand what the businessman, large and small, faces, understand the challenges of raising a family in this day and hour, and so those are the things that I bring to the table, that I think I can do the right thing for Oklahoma, stand strong for our constituents, and as a representative, you have opportunity to help people in various different ways, and I'm happy and comfortable doing that, and and I'm not the one to back down from a fight if that's what it comes to. I'll fight for the people of Oklahoma. I'll fight for what's right. I'll fight for our constituents right here in Sequoyah County.